Kentucky goes to Athens between the hedges to take on the Georgia Bulldogs in what could turn out to be the biggest game in the SEC Eastern Division this year. How about that? We got Kevin McGuffey on the line. Last word on college football. Get on over there, check out Kevin's work and everybody else at Last Word on College Football. Hey, Kevin, you got your Kentucky blue on. I tried to match you. I came as close as I could.
Wait, is that North Carolina blue? No, I'm just
it's UCLA. You could
UCLA. Okay, that's acceptable. That's fine. So, thanks again for having me on. As you said, it's a huge game this weekend with Kentucky and Georgia. You and I talked about this last week. Personal opinion, I think this should have been the 3:30 game on CBS as opposed to Alabama and Texas A&M. But that's okay. National primetime audience on ESPN, and Cat fans are feeling pretty good right now after last week's win over Florida. A lot more of a blowout than I thought it was going to be. A definite rarity. The biggest Kentucky win against Florida, I think, since 1979. So now it's time to move on and see what they can do Saturday against Georgia.
I thought that the Florida-Kentucky game, well, according to Vegas, was a coin flip. I felt pretty confident Kentucky was going to win. I picked Kentucky to win. I was surprised at the outcome. I thought it would be one of the better games of the day, close.
Right.
But the big blue wall was out there in front of Ray Davis, and that was nearly impossible for Florida to stop.
Yeah, that was huge. It was great to see. Ray Davis had the third most rushing yards in a game for Kentucky behind Mo Williams and I think it's 2005 and Lynn Bowden a few years ago against Louisville. 280 yards, won if there's a weekly award, I'm pretty sure Ray Davis won it. I even, for the heck of it, why not? I voted him in our Last Word Heisman poll this week. I had him number 5 on my ballot. So, but the cool thing was after the game, in every interview, everything he said, he gave all the credit to the offensive line. And you think about it, these Kentucky teams of the past, what have they done well? They've run the ball well. And, last year they had issues, and it's kind of been hit or miss this year. But everything just kind of clicked on all cylinders on Saturday. And then Jeremy Flax got one of the offensive lineman, National Offensive Lineman Awards. So, and if you look to segue into this game, if you look at it, teams that have been able to have some success running a ball against Georgia have been able to give themselves a chance to win. You think about Auburn ran for over 200 yards against them last week. So, they're going to be keying on Davis, but yeah, the opportunity is there. It's just a matter of, can Kentucky put it all together for 4 quarters and pull that upset?
I would normally say, forget it. This is a different deal. But as you mentioned, Auburn was effective in the run game, and they had next to no threat of the downfield passing. There was just nothing there. Peyton Thorne and Auburn's pass attack has been anemic. So Georgia didn't even need to respect that as much as they would need to respect Kentucky's wide receiver core and Devin Leary. Although that connection, that chemistry is still developing. It hasn't been the best. So this would be a good week for Devin Leary to have his best game as a Kentucky Wildcat.
Right. Absolutely. And one thing to throw out there, Coach Stoops mentioned this earlier in the week. If you watch the Florida game, Barron Brown and Tavion Robinson both left the game on Saturday due to injury. As of right now, their status is still, listed to be determined. As we're talking, I have to believe that unless something really is up, I can't imagine where neither one of them don't play on Saturday because it's such a huge game. And if you go back and look, Brown had a monster game against Georgia last year. They had 10 catches for, I think, 145 yards and a touchdown. And that was with the Rich Scangarello offense that Kentucky had trouble putting points on the board. And if you go back to last year, this Kentucky defense held Georgia to 16 points. The final game was 16-6. Had Kentucky been able to get anything going consistently offensively, we could have been talking about Kentucky pulling the upset last year. And you remember This is a team that scored, I think, was it 50, 42, and 65 in their last 3 games last year, going in winning their second state championship. But yes, the status of Robinson and Brown is something to definitely monitor. Yeah, and to your point, 100% correct. Leary needs to have his best game as a Wildcat on Saturday for the Cats to have a chance to win.
Georgia struggled with South Carolina. They were down 2 scores. They wiped them out in the second half with 21 consecutive points. And then the Auburn game that we saw last week is an Auburn football team that has, I'm never going to discount SEC talent, and they certainly have it at a mid-tier level, but they have all sorts of issues on offense and, again, passing the ball. But 20-20 with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. So they kept him right there. And so I don't know. There is no doubt that this Georgia team isn't the dominant force that it was the last 2 years, at least at this point of the season. But they may be the team that just always knows what to do in the fourth quarter to win these games. So we'll see how this plays out in the fourth quarter if we get to that point, which I believe we will.
No, I think you're right. This is definitely not the Georgia team so far that we've seen of the last 2 years. Like I said, South Carolina had them down at the half. Auburn had a chance to win. But as you said, I think this team always seems to find a way to win. And like I said, if this game was in Lexington, I would definitely tip the scales towards a Kentucky upset. Like I said, I'm going to upset everyone in the Big Blue Nation, but I'm picking Georgia to win by 3 because I think they'll still find a way to win at the end of the game. And we'll see what happens. The point spread, I think, was 19 when it opened. And, the graphic on the screen there, now it's down to 14. It's been bet down to 14.5. But like I said, I think today's got to play a perfect game, have to limit turnovers, no dumb penalties. None of this, a touchdown or something getting called, big play getting called back because of a penalty. Not quite maybe not the perfect game, but they've got to be dang close, especially down there at Auburn, or not Auburn, excuse me, at Georgia. That Auburn played Georgia last week. Got my SEC teams tongue twisted there.
Folks, we got an SEC channel. You can catch the link in the description section of all the videos. Please follow us there. Complete SEC football coverage with previews throughout the league each and every week, and predictions as well. We've got our guy Steve Merrill from Wager Talk. He comes on and gives his under the radar selections and his analysis on the matchups in the SEC. So the SEC channel description section link right there. Kevin McGuffey, last word on college football. Any recent bowl projections?
Yes, I keep meaning to tag you in these things, and when I post them on Twitter, but I've been away for a few days working on some other things. I've got Kentucky as of this week playing in the former Outback Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, playing Wisconsin. So, which I think would be a pretty interesting battle. The week before, I had them in the Mayo Bowl, but with the win over Florida, I bumped them up this week. So that's where I have Kentucky right now. Then I have the top 4 teams. I've still got Georgia, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and Florida State are the top 4 teams in our bowl projections in that order, with Ohio State and USC as 5 and 6. So
just keep Kentucky away from Iowa.
Yes, no, we want no part of that. Again, after that, maybe in a couple years they can play again, but we'll see what happens. But no Iowa. But I do, a lot of those games, those New Year's games, are always SEC versus Big Ten. So I think at one point I had Kentucky playing Maryland in one of the games, but like I said, now this week it's Kentucky and Wisconsin playing in the ReliaQuest Bowl, I think is what it's called now. So the former Outback Bowl.
Kentucky was pretty airtight on defense too against Florida. I watched the game, and late in the first half, Florida made a big play. I think it was Caleb Douglas down near the goal line to set them up for a touchdown. But until then, nothing. And then they got within 2 scores at one point and had a breath of life, a little glimmer of hope with a Ricky Pearsall touchdown. But besides that, Kentucky clamped down on them.
Absolutely. Like I said, we talked about it in our preview. The big guys up front with Deion Walker and Octavius Oxendine, both of those had really, really good games um, on Saturday. And I said that the defense just kind of, what you kind of expect out of a Brad White led defense. They just dominated for a lot of the game. And then, fun thing for this weekend is that Kentucky's linebackers, De'Aaron Jackson and Trevin Wallace. It's a homecoming for them because both guys are from Georgia originally, so they get to come back home and play against the Bulldogs this week. So I'm sure there's going to be a little extra motivation in that one as well. So, but yeah, a very very strong defensive game for Kentucky against Florida. And like I said, obviously when it comes to Florida, you got to stop. You got to figure out where Brock Bowers is every second of the game that he's on the field. So, got to do a good job against him. Look for Oxendine and Walker. Try to get some pressure on Carson Beck and see if they can force Georgia into some turnovers or some mistakes. That's how that's always one of those keys for trying to pull that upset.
So when bringing up the Brock Bowers factor, is there any particular Kentucky player or group of players that you would expect that would get that assignment?
At this point, I haven't seen that they're gonna who they're gonna have possibly cover him. It could be just about anyone on the team. It could be the two linebackers. Could it be could it be a couple of the safeties? I would suspect that you would maybe see off and on a lot of people, a lot of different players probably following Bowers around the field on Saturday.
Georgia has yet to cover this season. And so this point spread is now, as Kevin mentioned, down from 19 to 14.5 last I checked. And again, if you care about such things, Georgia has yet to cover. But if you also just care about football games, Georgia also has yet to lose. So
that's true.
And not lose in a long, long time since the
Right.
2021 SEC championship game. They haven't lost a regular season game since mid-2020.
That's right.
It's quite a roll. Well, Kentucky will
quite-
try to do something about it.
Yeah, it's quite a roll. It's perfect time for those streaks to end. Wouldn't you say?
It's got to end sometime. So why not Big Blue Kentucky?
Yeah. One thing we're talking about Bowers that I was going to mention, last year's game, he only had two passes. He only had two catches for 10 yards last year. So, the Cats did a great job on him last year. Like I said, had Kentucky been able to get any kind of consistent offense going, I think they really had a chance. They could have pulled that upset last year. So maybe in 2023 that'll happen. So, what Brad White did last year against him, look for that blueprint to show up again on Saturday.
I just hope for your sake nobody mentioned that to Bowers.
I'm sure that's probably only come up. I'm sure in press conferences a few times this year or this week. So, but like I said, it should be a great game. I'm really looking forward to it. And if Kentucky could shock the world, I think the possibilities are endless. After that, they got Missouri next week, and then the bye week, and then the last part of the schedule is pretty rough. You got Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, and then Louisville. Almost forgot Louisville. They've been one of the big surprises this year. I think I saw somewhere where this is, I believe, the first time in history that UK and U of L have both started the season at 5-0, or if it's not the first time ever, it's the first time in a long, long time. And I'm going to be honest, it would not surprise me to see Louisville beat Notre Dame on Saturday, but we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. So that should be also a really, really good game on Saturday.
Yeah, so if Georgia wins this game, obviously they are the favorite, will continue to be the favorite, and it will just be another big win notch on their belts as they march toward the SEC championship game. But if Kentucky can somehow pull out a win, then it's a mad scramble and it's anyone's guess, and it's becomes a whole lot of fun. Otherwise, again, it's Kentucky and Florida and the rest of them just fighting for second place.
Right.
So this is a fork in the road game for the SEC Eastern Division. I think there's pretty
Right.
much no doubt that Georgia marches on and cleans the table if they win this game. But
Hmm.
otherwise, again, mad scramble, and Kentucky would
Right.
actually hold that key win and be in great shape. So we will know about 7 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. Kevin, best of luck. I hope you enjoy the game.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I'll enjoy it as much as I can. So, but thanks for having me on again. It's always great to be on here and talk with you.